What's up guys, GT here, and I hope you guys are doing fantastic wherever you are. And here's wishing you all a very happy new year and a very prosperous 2026 as well. Since this is going to be the first official video of 2026 on the channel from my side, I would like you guys to do me a small favor. Jump down into the comments and give me a shout out, a hi or an emoji or whatever greeting you want to throw my way, and let me know where you're typing the comment from. It still amazes me and gives me immense pleasure to see that my videos are being watched from across the globe, from different countries. I never had imagined I'll come this far with the channel, so I want to thank you and each one of you for the support, the appreciation, the comments, the dislikes, the constructive feedback, everything that you've given me in return of my videos. I really appreciate it, and I do want to continue making more videos for you, more tones for you in 2026 as well. So thanks a lot. All right, back to the video. So if you are a new Fractal Audio user, if you've gone ahead and bought yourself an AX8, a used AX8 or a used Axe-Fx II or an Axe-Fx III or an FM3 or an FM9, I'm not talking about the VP4 and the AM4 just yet, but if you bought any of those other units and you're trying to dial in your first preset, you know and I know the amount of challenge we face in terms of dialing in the first preset. Now Fractal has made it easier over the years on the devices, but if you're a user of the Axe-Fx II like I am, I understand the pain that it takes to dial in a preset from the front of the unit. And when I bought my Axe-Fx II unit, I tried editing a simple preset and I could not even get halfway through doing it. And I then realized that there's an easier way to do it, which is the Axe Edit software. Now, whatever we're going to talk about in this video is going to apply to pretty much all of the Axe Edit softwares, the AX8 Edit, the FM3 Edit, etc., with a few limitations here and there or a few differences here and there. But you should get the gist of how to use the Axe Edit software to dial in your first preset. And I'm going to try and make it really easy and very detailed and explanatory. We'll stop each part of the way and I'll show you what I'm doing in detail so that you are having a smoother journey in your first preset dialing experience, which is the way it should be, right? Axe-Fx is all about sitting down and creating your own tones and enjoying it rather than just shuffling through the inbuilt factory presets, which are great in my opinion, but the whole experience is about dialing in your own tones. Okay, enough blabbing around the topic. Let's jump into the Axe Edit and let's dial in the first preset. Alright guys, so before we move any forward, I do want to call out that I'm not going to cover how to download and install Axe Edit on your machine. The Fractal Audio site pretty much covers that pretty well. It's a simple and straightforward process. So hopefully you're with me and you've got Axe Edit running. I'm on preset number 229. This is a default factory preset called Screaming Plexi. This is how it sounds. Not a bad tone, but this is again a factory preset. We want to make it our own. So the first thing you want to do is clear out the preset and start with a blank preset. How do you do that? You go into preset and you say clear preset. What this will do is clear out everything on the preset and all the blocks will be lost. And we'll cover in detail what all these sections and what all this stuff means if you're new to it. On the top, we have the various controls, which are pretty much self-explanatory. You can change your presets by this button or the arrows. You can jump between scenes. I have a separate video on scenes and what scenes are. Go watch that. You can save your preset or you can export and stuff like that. All that stuff is pretty self-explanatory. The preset name usually appears over here. So the first thing you want to do is give it a good, nice preset name. I have a very good one. So we'll call it Like and Subscribe. In case you haven't, please do it. You can give it whatever name you want. This is just me goofing around, but yeah, just give it a good name. And the second thing you want to learn about is this big black grid that is presented in front of you. Now, this is basically where most of the action is going to happen. This is where you'll be spending most of your time trying to move blocks around and creating what we call is a signal chain. If you've ever played through other modelers, you should be kind of familiar with what a signal chain is. Or if you're a pedals guy, you would know that you would create a signal chain by connecting different pedals together. And although it might not matter much in how the signal chain flows, in what order you kept your pedals and how they're connected, but in the Axe-Fx world, the signal chain pretty much flows from left to right, like reading English. So your signal chain will flow from the left, which is the input and the gate section over here, and it will flow towards the output section over here. Now this is going to be consistent across pretty much all of the Fractal products, except for a few differences like the Axe-Fx III can allow you to start and input from anywhere on the grid. In the Axe-Fx II, you pretty much have to do it from left to right. The 4 rows are the different inputs that you can connect to the outputs, although there is only, I think, 2 inputs available on the Axe-Fx II. But yeah, we're going to pretty much keep it simple and not dive too much into detail and customization, which is going to confuse you even further. So the first thing you want to do is click on one of these first rows over here and click on that circle over there with your mouse and go all the way to the right and click that last plus green icon. That's going to basically connect your entire signal chain from left to right, and you're going to be connecting from the input to the output. If you click the input, you will see certain gates, a noise gate present and settings present in there. I've kept it to pretty much standard. I don't change these at all in pretty much most of my preset dialings, but if your pickups or your setup is a slightly bit more noisier and you're getting a lot of more earthing sounds in there, you might want to tweak the threshold a bit to get a more cleaner sound in there. But for me, this default setup works absolutely fine. Now that you've connected a first line of signal chain, you should be able to hear your DI guitar coming through the Axe-Fx II. And if I play my guitar right now, it's very faint, but you can still hear the DI signal coming through the guitar, going into the Axe-Fx II and going into my computer and coming out of my speakers. It's as simple as that. Alright, so now that you've got all of that sorted, the basic signal chain has been created. You want to start adding blocks one by one. And the first intuitive thought is obviously to go ahead and add the amp in there. There are other blocks you can add in, like the compressor and the drive. We'll come to that. But the first thing I would strongly recommend to start off with is the amp block. Now, when you right click on one of the blocks here, you would want to do that in the first block over here, but I would highly recommend you do it a few blocks later in the signal chain so that you can add more blocks before the amp if you want to. We'll come to that in a little bit. So right click on the block you want to add the amp into, go into the amp, and you can add in 2 amps. I believe on the AX8 you can only add 1, but that's a slightly more advanced topic. Go ahead and add the amp. When you add the amp, the first amp it's going to load in is the 59 bass guy. This is the default amp, which is the first amp in the Axe-Fx II. Great amp, but we're not going to use this one. It's slightly complicated to dial in sometimes. When it comes to the Axe-Fx II, it presents you with hundreds of amps to choose from, and each one has their own traits. Like if you dial in the Mesa Boogie amp, for example, you have certain tricks that you want to learn. But since this is your first preset, you want something which is very simple, which is easy to dial in, and something which is so simple that you can't go wrong with. I highly recommend going with the Friedman HBE amp in this case, which is a fantastic amp to dial in. It requires little to no work and customization to get a good tone out of it, and you will see that even at stock settings you'll be able to get a decent tone out of it. The Friedman family does have other amps present as well, but we're now going to look at more detailed stuff right now. You can either go with the Friedman HBE or go with the Friedman BE. You should be able to get a decent tone out there. So let's select the Friedman BE model. Let's keep everything at stock. And of course, you would think that this is half of my job done because I've added the amp block in and it should sound great, but we should play right now. It's not going to sound really good. As you can see, it has a lot of fizz in it and it doesn't sound like how the Friedman amp would actually sound. That's mostly because we haven't added the cab block in there as well, because the amp needs a cab to go in with along with itself so that it can function properly. They both go together in the real world as well if you've ever played through a live amp. So let's go ahead and add in the cab. That's the second option in the drop down here. Let's go ahead and add in the cab. Now, as with the amp, the cab is hundreds to choose from. The possibilities and the permutations are practically infinite because you can add in any type of cabinet you want. You can go with a 1x6, 1x12, 2x12, 4x12. It's just endless possibilities, as you can see over here. Now this is where I would recommend take a pause, and if you want to really go ahead and understand how each and every amp works, I would strongly recommend to you to go and check out a PDF that I'll link down in the description below called Yex Guide, which is a fantastic guide created by a forum member on the Fractal Audio site called Yek, and he's gone through the pain of going through each amp and listing down how the amp works, what it is inspired of in the real world, and how or what cabinets can you choose to make it sound better. Long story short, that guide is really helpful. I have dialed this amp before. I know that a V30 sort of a cabinet works really well with this amp, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that. My favorite is the F07 III and F07 IV, which are two standard stock cabinets, which are 4x12 rectifiers, USA traditional cabinets, which come along with the Axe-Fx II. I'm going to choose the F07 III cabinet over here, and the only thing I'm going to change, actually I'm not going to change anything. Let's hear how it sounds at the moment, right? You can see right off the bat, we haven't even tweaked anything and we are getting a fantastic tone already. But of course, we are here to tweak stuff and make it suitable to our liking. The first thing I would generally do once we figure out the amp and the cab is push the cab high cut all the way to 20K, because we don't want any top end being lost from the amp. We'll tweak that later if we want to. And also what I do is change the low cut to 80 Hertz to trim out some of that low end so that there is no boominess in your preset. Now we can go back into the amp, and since we are dialing in a high gain preset, I would like to put in some more input drive and make it a little more chunkier and heavy. So around 7 should be fine. You can go all the way up to 10 if you like to. As I said, the Friedman amps are really easy to dial in, and even with stock settings, as you heard, it sounds pretty decent. You can tweak this a little bit more to your liking. What I usually like to do is pull the bass slightly down, mid slightly up, treble slightly higher as well, and the presence up as well. Depth is, I'm going to keep it at standard stock settings, and master volume I'm going to keep it at 4. Master volume is a tricky knob. I'll come back to it in a second. Let's hear how it sounds now. There you have it, just an amp and a cab, and it sounds pretty amazing to my ears. I don't know about you guys. Let me know in the comments below what do you think about it. Now obviously depth is going to add a little bit of boominess, and it's going to be slightly boomier the higher dial in. The master volume is tricky with every amp. Usually go with the stock settings with what the amp loads up with. Dialing it higher can sometimes make the amp more thicker. Dialing it low can make it thinner and tinier. So usually trust the default master volume that comes loaded up with the amp. You can tweak it to your liking. Nobody's stopping you. As I said, we're not going to go into any of the advanced stuff in this video. All of these sections over here, don't even bother about them. As I said, just these basic controls should be able to get you a pretty decent tone if you want to. Now, if you're in search for more drive, you can obviously add more input drive here. What I like to do sometimes to boost the amp a little bit more and add more gain is to add in a drive block in the beginning. My favorite is the Evergreen Green T808 overdrive pedal. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to keep the drive to 0 because we're just boosting the amp, push the tone up a little bit and push the level up to 10 as well. Everything else, just leave it to stock. Trust me, this is how it's. That floats my boat pretty well. That's a pretty good sounding preset in my opinion, and we've just dialed in 3 blocks and haven't tweaked a lot of stuff as well. The next thing you want to do is go ahead and add some spread and some depth or some width to your preset. Couple of ways to do that. You can add in the chorus block. What I like to do is add in an enhancer block. This is a fantastic block. I pretty much use it in all of my presets now. The only thing I change is put the high cut all the way up so that I don't lose any top end, and you can hear the difference, how much width this adds to your preset. Obviously, now we're stepping into more of the lead preset territory. The next thing you want to do is add in some chorus. If that's something that you want to do, this is going to give you even more spread and smoothness into your tone. The preset, I usually, the chorus that I really like is the Dimension 1 chorus. A really good chorus without talking much about it. Mix should be slightly lower. Don't keep the mix very high, otherwise it's going to sound very wavy, if you know what I mean. You might notice that I'm following a pattern of where I'm adding the blocks. There is no hard and fast rule. You can add the chorus before the drive block or before the amp if you want to. Nobody's stopping you. But when it comes to the Fractal audio systems, or the general rule or general thumb of rule or guidance that we follow is that we add the chorus, the modulations after the amp in the cab. Nobody's stopping you for putting a cab before the amp if that's something that you want to do. But obviously it's not going to sound like a traditional preset, but you might still create something fancy and nice, and you should experiment and try something out like that. The next thing you want to add, as I said, to turn this into a more of a sweeter, smoother delay preset or a lead preset is a delay block. Not a delay preset, a lead preset. And the delay that I usually like is dual delay. And I like to set this to my liking. This is again by ear, 600 and 900 or 800 sounds good. This is purely by taste and what you want to do it. Up the mix a little bit, and this is how it sounds. That sounds fantastic. Now, if you're a reverb sort of a guy, we've got you covered as well. If you want to put in a reverb, you can put in a reverb as well. If I can find this, that is. It's always tricky to find a reverb. I don't know why. Okay, here we go. So add in the reverb. There are other ways to add stuff in parallel. This is a slightly more advanced topic. I've covered this in my other videos. You should go and check it out. It's a really good way to have delay coming in as 100% mix and still preserve your signal chain. By the way, if you want to disable a block and not have it in your signal chain, just double click on it. The delay block will be switched off and the reverb will still be turned on because the signal chain is still bypassing it and going through the reverb block. So the reverb that I like to use a lot is London Plate. Change the quality to high, keep everything to default, put the mix up slightly, and this is how it sounds. Obviously that sounds really good, but if you want all of these things different, turning on and off in different scenes, you can do that using scenes. I've got an entire video covering how scenes are done and how scenes can be created from a single preset. You can have a lead preset, a rhythm preset, both in the same scene and switch between them. It's really easy. It's really cool. Make sure you go and check that out. Well, if you talk to me honestly, that's pretty much all that there is to dial in a preset. You just need a few blocks, and some of them are even optional. You can actually do away with the chorus and enhance block and reverb and drive. If you just have two blocks like the amp and the cab, sometimes that's all you need to dial in a good tone. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this style of series. If you want more Axe-Fx basic stuffs, I'm all in for doing more videos around the Axe-Fx II basics or the Axe-Fx basics. Please let me know down in the comments, and hopefully you enjoyed this sort of a preset creation, slightly different from what I usually do on the channel. Again, I'm looking forward to your shout outs in the comments below. Let me know where you're from and do give me a hi. do give me a shout out and make sure you drop in a note down in the comments below. And if you like such content, make sure you hit subscribe and like the video. That goes without saying. There's plenty more tone in the channel. Please go ahead and check it out. And here's again wishing you a very successful 2026, and I shall see you in the next one. Cheers, keep rocking, bye bye.